Hello and welcome to my December TBR. This is the list of everything that I am hoping / planning / trying to read in December of 2023. I have decided to give up on trying to finish some books that I have shelved because I just kind of had this urge to read a few things next month in order to prep for some 2024 releases. And also, I'd like to tackle a couple of rereads of books from my teenage years. And there's a couple of self-published books that I'd really like to have a go at. So, let's just get straight into things. So the first book that I'm going to be reading in December is The Dragons of Deepwood Fen by Bradley P. Bowyer. I am stealing that pronunciation from Mike's book reviews. So I have no idea how to pronounce it. But The Dragons of Deepwood Fen is the first book in a brand new Dragon Rider fantasy series from Bradley P. Bowyer. He's written a couple of fantasy series in the past, none of which I've read. I just decided on a whim, having seen this in a new releases wrap up from a fellow booktuber, that I would take a gamble on reading this brand new series from an author I've never touched before. And actually, I was approved for an advanced reader copy on NetGalley, not Goodreads. I was approved for an advanced reader copy on NetGalley, so I decided that I would give this one a go. It's not actually out in the UK until January. So my review will probably be coming out for the US release date, which is the beginning of December. I'm going to be going into this one completely blind. All I know is that it's a Dragon Rider fantasy. Hi Barry. Is he going to pop into the frame? You can just see a tail. So all I know about this one is that it is a Dragon Rider fantasy. I'm genuinely excited for this one. Robin Hobb's review of it was so strong. She gave it 5 stars and said that she absolutely loved it. And having read Robin Hobb's books, I can only imagine that a review from her is a reliable indicator that a book is going to be good. After we read that one, we are going to be going into one of 2 books. So, actually, the rest of the month is completely unstructured. So I want to read Dragons of Deepwood Fen so that I can post a review around the release date. But the rest of these books could be anywhere in the month. But there is one book which is going to depend on whether I can finish the previous book first. So I put on to my November TBR for the end of the month, because I managed to finish all my books early. I decided to add on Curse of the Mistwraith, which I'm currently reading and enjoying. It's very, very dense, but it's nice to get into kind of some more challenging fantasy stuff after reading a lot of sci-fi, and also Brando Sando and Stephen King, which are extremely easy reading, accessible, bingeable prose styles. Whereas Janny Wirt and Curse of the Mistwraith is a lot more kind of... it's not inaccessible, but it's very dense. So it takes a lot longer to read. She reminds me a little bit of Robin Hobb in that way, in that she's doing these very, very long chapters that are very dense with information. Now, if I finish Curse of the Mistwraith in time this month, and I've got a couple of days left, my plan is to read Prophet of Edan by Philip Chase. If I don't get to Prophet of Edan in November, then Prophet of Edan is going to be on my December TBR, and Return to Edan, which is currently on my December TBR, will probably shift into January, but we will see how I'm feeling next month. I do actually have a full week off for Christmas. So my company shuts down on, I think, the 22nd and doesn't open up again until the 2nd of January. So that's a pretty decently long time that I have off. And all my videos for the channel for that period I will actually be pre-recording during the month of December, so I'm not going to have any booktube to do that week. I'm not going to have any work to do that week. I will obviously be spending a lot of time with my family, but my other hope is that I can be using some of that time to get a lot of reading done. So maybe Return to Edan will still get read. After that, I am going to be reading another. I say after that. Also next month, I'm going to be reading another Booktuber's fantasy novel. I'm going to be reading Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson. So I've actually just recently joined Andrew's Discord and his Patreon, and it's a really, really nice place to be. I think his Discord members are really friendly and really nice so far. We've had a lot of really good chats. We were talking recently about the Sanderson secret projects, and everyone was kind of talking about what they liked and what they didn't like. And a couple of members from the Discord have said that they've started subscribing to the channel, so that's really great. If you are watching this, hello. So Harbinger of Justice is a kind of desert-based fantasy novel. I did read the prologue because I have had some bad experience with Booktuber books in the past. Well, one bad experience with a Booktuber book in the past. Not The Way of Edan, or else I would not be reading the sequels. But I wanted to be sure that I would enjoy this book because, as I've said before, I do review everything I read, and I didn't just want to go out and trash a book, for example. I don't think that's particularly fair or fun. And if I, say, for example, read the book and then chose not to review it, that's not a very good use of my time, if that makes sense. I only like to read books that I want to review. So we're going to be reading Harbinger of Justice next month. Also, kind of in concert with Andrew, so he is doing a book club next month for patrons and for Discord members where they're reading The Sword of Kaigan. And I had been planning on reading The Sword of Kaigan for ages. And I thought that because next month I'm going to pick up Kindle Unlimited for a couple of months, it might make sense to read a few titles which are on Kindle, Kindle Unlimited. So I actually, Harbinger of Justice is on Kindle Unlimited, but I do own a copy because Andrew put it up for free earlier this month. But yeah, so I do already own a copy, but it is also on Kindle Unlimited, and so is Sword of Kaigan. So Sword of Kaigan's on Kindle Unlimited, and next month, as I was saying, I think I'm going to read quite a few Kindle and ebook titles. So I thought might as well try and push a few more Kindle titles all into the same kind of couple of months, which is why I'm going to be reading Prophet and Return of Edan, hopefully, as well. I actually only have 2 physical books next month. Everything else is ebook, which is the exact opposite of almost every month that I've been doing my channel, where I've been mostly reading physical books, because I do tend to prefer that. But a lot of these self-published books, the paperback costs, because they're print on demand, are quite high. And unfortunately, it's Christmas, so my budget is elsewhere. But 1 month of Kindle Unlimited will get me access to a load of amazing books, and so I'm really looking forward to reading those. Sword of Kaigan is a kind of Asian-inspired fantasy, and as far as I understand it from what I have heard, the traditional climax of the novel is in the first third, and then we spend the rest of the novel in kind of living in the world after this climactic event. So I think that's really, really interesting. I like when self-published authors are able to do things that traditionally published authors aren't. And something like that sort of story structure you definitely wouldn't get away with in a lot of traditionally published fantasy novels. So I'm genuinely really excited for that one. After I read Sword of Kaigen, Harbinger of Justice, I've got my reading schedule here. Sword of Kaigen, Harbinger of Justice, Return to Edan or Prophet of Edan or both, and Dragons of Deepwood Fen. Then, if I've managed to read all of those, I'm also going to be reading Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. So, Justice of Kings is the first book in the Richard Swan's Empire of the Wolf trilogy. The final book is coming out in February, so my current plan is to read one a month. The Justice of Kings is about a lawyer slash judge in a fantasy world who goes around the country and kind of investigates and then punishes people for crimes. And he has the magical ability to speak to the dead and also to force people to tell the truth. So I think that magic kind of sounds really interesting to me, and I really like the kind of exploration of fantasy jobs, almost. And this is something that Sanderson said that he really liked about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, was that he wanted to portray fantasy jobs in fantasy worlds that kind of seemed normal to the people who did them. So I'm really interested in this one. A lot of people have raved about Justice of Kings and even more about Tyranny of Faith. So I'm genuinely excited to get into this trilogy. I also am excited because it is just a trilogy, and a lot of the fantasy books that I'm picking up at the moment, like, for example, Curse of the Mistwraith, which is an 11-book series, Wheel of Time, we're starting in January, is like, God knows how many books, like 15 or something, including the prequel. So, very, very big, very, very big series coming up, and I'm trying to get a couple of shorter ones so that I get that kind of achievement of finishing a series. So, once we've read Justice of Kings, I would like to, if possible, so these two are probably ones that might fall off the TBR, but ideally, I'd like to take part in the Remember December event and to do some rereads. And the two rereads that I have picked are books that may not be of massive appeal to people watching my channel for fantasy and sci-fi, but it is The Tin Man by Dale Brown and Batman No Man's Land by Greg Rucka. So both of these books were some of my favourite books as a teenager. So I read Batman No Man's Land not long after it came out, which would have been, I think I'd have been like 16 or 17 at the time, and just absolutely loved it. So I used to, when we would go on holiday, my mum would let me buy 3 books to take. So I was quite an avid reader at the time, and we used to have a lot of free time on holiday where, had no, at the time, you didn't take your electronics with you. So I basically would go on holiday with just books. So I'd have 3 books usually. And I took Batman No Man's Land one year and just absolutely loved it. It's a really, really cool book. It adapts the No Man's Land event, but gives a lot more detail. The No Man's Land event was a major inspiration for the story of The Dark Knight Rises. And also kind of some inspiration was taken for sections of the Batman as well. So if you're familiar with those stories, then definitely something interesting here. And honestly, I just love this book. I think I've read it like 3 times over the years, but it's been over a decade since the last time I even cracked it open. Graphic Audio has actually done an adaptation of this, which is really good as well. But I'm going to be reading this physical copy. And this is actually the second copy I bought, because the other one is literally taped together because it's been read so many times it's fallen apart. The Tin Man. Now, this is a really weird book for me to have loved as a teenager. So, this is one of the series of novels starring Patrick McClanahan. These novels are mostly like aeroplane drama, like aeroplane spy drama sorts of things. So this character, Patrick McClanahan, is basically like a super pilot sort of thing. Like he's a super special military mind. They're basically kind of like military thrillers, but with a focus on airplanes and like that sort of thing. And my stepdad actually was a huge fan of the series because he is a pilot. In his spare time, he flies gliders and he leads a Royal Air Force cadet group. So I had seen this name, Dale Brown, but I'd never been interested in the books because I wasn't particularly interested in military thrillers at the time. But when we were on holiday one year, I spotted this book on a spinner rack on a ferry to France, and I felt like I didn't have enough books because I had bought my 3 books for the holiday, but I'd already read most of one, and we weren't even in France yet. So I decided to buy this one because it just looked interesting. And this one is a really interesting book for the character Patrick McClanahan because there's no planes involved. So basically, what happens is McClanahan retires from the military, and he comes back home to San Diego, and he finds that there is like a gang war going on the streets, and a lot of the he feels like it's not a safe place to live anymore. And he experiences I think there's like some family tragedy, and ends up working for as he retires from the military, he ends up working for a weapons manufacturer, and they have been working on some prototype stuff, which is like super body armor basically. And he decides that he's going to use this super body armor and become like a vigilante and clear up San Diego. So I remember reading the back of this book and thinking like, wow, this sounds right up my superhero loving street. And when I read it, I absolutely loved it. So I'm really looking forward to reading it again. So hopefully I can get through all of my fantasy and sci-fi reads that are new books, and then Remember December can start, and I will read. I'll probably read Tin Man first because it's been the one that I've read the least and the longest time since I've read it. But I would like to read No Man's Land as well. And if I don't get to read either of them, maybe I will add them in as kind of backups for the rest of the year. So that is the December TBR. I'm going to unlock the old tablet to get my spreadsheet and read the list to you. So first off, we've got Dragons of Deepwood Fen by Bradley P. Bowyer, which is going to be my first book. After Dragons of Deepwood Fen, I'm just going to pick from the list of 4 other books, whatever I fancy. So we've got Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson, which is on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read along. Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong, which is also on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read along. Then we've got The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. I bought this one on Kindle when Tyranny of Faith came out because there was an offer for it for 99p. So I will also be reading that on Kindle. However, it's not there are physical copies. They're in the library system. So if you're interested and you want a physical copy, you probably could get that. And also, I'll be reading 2 more Kindle Unlimited books, or 1 or 2 more Kindle Unlimited books, which is going to be Prophet of Edan by Philip Chase, or possibly Prophet of Edan and Return to Edan, or just Return to Edan. Return to Edan is one that so many people have said is quite experimental. So I'm genuinely really interested to get to that. I really loved The Way of Edan, and it was a massive surprise as well because I was expecting it to be, I was expecting to like it, not love it, and for it to kind of not feel like my kind of thing. But the Way of Edan was absolutely a proper bridge between this kind of dense classic fantasy like Curse of the Mistwraith, and also the modern frenetic action high-paced fantasy that you see from people like Brandon Sanderson. So that was such a massive surprise for me, and because I loved it so much, I knew that I wanted to make the time to read those the sequels. Then my Kindle Unlimited ran out because I had like a free 3 month trial. And when I went to read the next one, I was like, oh, do you know what? I'll save it for when I've got a lot of other Kindle Unlimited stuff I want to read, which is December. And also in January, there'll be a lot more Kindle Unlimited stuff. So if you are, for example, thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a Kindle Unlimited subscription and read along with Sam, then you absolutely should do. Almost always there's an offer where they'll be like, oh, come back to Kindle Unlimited and you can have it half price, or you can have 2 months free, or all this sort of jazz. There's almost always some kind of offer on. And even if not, it's only like I think it might be £10 now. I think it's like £10 a month. So I'm going to pony up for that and I'm going to get involved. So you should too. Anyway, if you have liked this video, please give it a like. If you have read any of these books and you want to help me prioritise that to read list, then pop a comment down below and let me know what you think. If you would like to see my reviews on any of these books, I review every single book that I read, and they will all be going up on the channel. So make sure that you subscribe and check back and watch my reviews. And if there's anything else you want to suggest to me or recommend for future TBRs, then let me know. Otherwise, I will speak to you in my next video. Bye.